Welcome! Today we are diving deep into one of the most important chapters in Genesis, Chayei Sarah. And with a little help from the legendary commentator Rashi, we're going to peel back the layers on a story that's all about securing a legacy when the odds are stacked against you.
So, our story kicks off at a moment of huge loss. Sarah, Abraham's wife, has just passed away. And Abraham, who's now old and, as the text says, blessed in all things, suddenly has two massive, urgent problems on his plate.
And this is the real heart of the problem, isn't it? To honor his past and his wife, he needs a proper burial place, but he doesn't actually own any land. And to secure the future, his son Isaac needs a wife. He's got to move, and he's got to move fast. Okay, so first things first, Abraham needs to get some land. But this isn't just about buying a plot. Come on, this is way more than a real estate deal. This is about planting the first physical stake in the ground of the promised land for his family. It's a physical anchor for a divine promise, and how he does it, well, that's incredibly important. What's so crucial here is that the text makes it crystal clear this wasn't some shady backroom deal. No, this was a formal public event. It all happens in the presence of the Hittites before all who entered the gate of his city. Every single step is out in the open, it's legally binding, and it creates this unbreakable witness claim to their very first piece of ancestral land. Now, here's where Rashi points out a really cool, subtle detail. The Hebrew text says the field rose to Abraham. That's not just a fancy way of saying he bought it. Rashi explains it literally means the land had a rise in status. It went from being just some regular guy's field to being the possession of a kingly figure. The land itself got an upgrade because of its new owner. All right, so the past is secured. Sarah has a final resting place, check. Abraham wastes zero time. He immediately pivots from honoring the past to building the future. And that means his focus is now 100% on his son, Isaac.
So he calls in his most trusted servant, his right-hand man, and gives him this incredibly high-stakes mission. The rules are absolutely clear, totally non-negotiable. The wife has to come from his family back home. She can't, under any circumstances, be one of the local Canaanite women. And, this is the big one, Isaac is forbidden from ever going back there himself.
So to make sure his servant is absolutely bound to this critical mission, Abraham demands an oath. And the ritual for this oath, well, let's just say, to our modern ears, it's pretty bizarre.
Yep, you read that right. It's right there in the text. Put your hand under my thigh. It's a surprisingly physical and intimate command. So what in the world could that possibly mean? And why this specific gesture for such a hugely important promise? Well, Rashi explains it for us. See, an oath has to be sworn on a sacred object, like we might use a Bible today. For Abraham, the most personal, the most sacred thing he had that represented his covenant with God was the sign of circumcision itself. Think about it. It was his first commandment. He went through pain to fulfill it, so it was incredibly precious to him. The servant is basically swearing on the very foundation of Abraham's entire relationship with God. But look, the servant is a practical guy. He's smart, and he immediately spots a potential huge hole in the plan. There's one variable that neither he nor Abraham can actually control: a person's free will. So he asks this absolutely critical question. He gets that this whole divinely backed mission completely depends on the personal choice of a woman he has never even met. He needs to know, what happens if she just says, "No thanks"? Abraham's first response is immediate and absolute. He just doubles down on the biggest rule. Whatever happens, the future is here, in this new land. Taking Isaac back is not an option. It's the one thing that simply cannot happen. But then, right after that very stern warning, his tone shifts. He makes this powerful declaration of faith. He reassures his servant, telling him that God himself will send a messenger ahead to make sure everything works out. He has total, complete faith that the divine plan will succeed. And this is where Rashi points out a fascinating little detail. When Abraham talks about the promise God made him way back when, he calls him the God of heaven. But just a moment ago, he made the servant swear to the God of heaven and God of the earth. Rashi explains that when Abraham started his journey, God was really only known in the heavens. But now, through Abraham's whole life and work, God's name has become known here on earth too. So even with all this deep faith, Abraham is also a realist. He gets that the what-if question is legitimate, so he builds a practical escape clause for his servant right into the oath. I mean, this is just a beautiful balance, right? Abraham has faith, but he doesn't use it to trap his servant in an impossible promise. If the woman says no, the servant is off the hook, free and clear. Divine destiny doesn't just steamroll human consent.
So Abraham wraps it up by repeating his most important rule one last time. But the specific Hebrew word he uses here for but or only is rak. And for Rashi, that tiny little word is like a key that unlocks a hidden prophecy.
Rashi points out that the word rak is a limiter. It creates an exclusion. It means the rule isn't no descendant of mine can ever go back. It's much more specific. It means only my son Isaac must not go back. The prohibition is just for him.
And there it is. In that one little word, Rashi sees this amazing piece of foreshadowing. The ban is limited only to Isaac. And why would that be? Because prophetically, Abraham understands that his grandson, Jacob, will actually have to make that same journey back to find a wife. Incredible.
And that's where we're left. The servant is heading out, bound by this sacred, intense oath, on a journey where God's plan has to deal with distance, family drama, and the totally unpredictable choices of the human heart. It leaves you with this big question, right? When everything, the entire future, depends on a simple yes or no, is faith enough?